Tapping in.
Are we live?
I'm not really sure how to intro this one. Cause I want to go to the jokes, but also I'm sure this is like a deeper topic for some people. So I guess this is me saying, y'all gonna get these jokes. I'm sorry.
There's no way to avoid the jokes on a conversation like this. This week we heard that Alexa essentially can mimic the voice of anybody, live or dead. So that immediately brought people to saying that Alexa can mimic your dead relatives. Is how the story was packaged. Miles, how do you feel about Alexa potentially being able to mimic your dead relatives?
Well, I'll be the first one to jump out there and say, y'all know me. I am Conspiracy Miles, right? I don't want no Alexa in my home. I don't want no Google Home in my home. I don't want nothing that's listening and waiting for me to say something in any capacity in my crib. So I've been against these things from the jump, and I just am continuing to see further evidence of why no. And one big no is like, I think what my immediate thought is that doesn't seem like healthy behavior, right? When somebody passes, and I've recently just had somebody pass in my family. When somebody passes, you want to celebrate their life. You want to reflect on whatever they've been able to contribute to your family, to the legacy of that family, to you as a person, the ways they've helped you grow, and then you got to let them go, right? And this to me seems like an impediment to the process of letting that loved one go. Now, I'm sure there are individual cases where it's like, no, I just really love this person's voice. I wasn't really even thinking about it, but if I could have that, that's cool. Cool. And I think there are other people that are like, wait, no, I actually need something to ease that process of grief. And this is a way that I can extend that, right? And that's what they're marketing it as. They saying make the memories last, which to me is we already getting in Black Mirror territory. But I can see where somebody would say it hurts so much that I need to extend this, and like this is a way of doing that. I would personally be creeped out, but to each his own. Zoe, whose dead Alexa are you gonna bring to life?
I would definitely start with hip hop Alexis. First of all, I'd make it the voice of Snoop Dogg potentially. I'd make it the voice of Snoop Dogg is probably something that I would definitely do. But that being said, when you listen to the reasons of why they're actually trying to develop how this technology is getting developed, you do realize that a lot of people are utilizing Alexa. A lot of people use like utilizing Alexa. What they're saying is that they get about a billion interactions a week with Alexa. There's over 100 million devices connected to Alexa, and it is, from my understanding, one of the most complex machine learning models that is out there, right? So there's the there's the geeky data side of how impressive of a thing it is, and you can very much see how that is geared towards a better experience because that's what we want Alexa to do. But um, it does get a bit creepy, but that's not fair though because some people buy perfume, and that's like my dead mother's perfume, and they keep that going. Some people keep pictures. Some people have voicemails that they keep calling back. So at what point do we want to draw the line and say, "Yo, that's too far"?
Now, you bring up a good point because as I was researching this, right, I came across this article that was like just a think piece, but it was saying like 200 years ago, most people didn't have like a picture of their loved one that passed away, right? Now, that's something we take for granted. As like, of course, I got pictures of my grandmother or my great grandmother, at least one, right? Somewhere in an old photo album in a dusty box that we always say that we're going to organize but never do, right? There's a picture of, my great uncle, right, who did some fly stuff or whatever. I can go and get that. But 200 years ago, that wasn't a thing, right? Now we even have videos of our loved ones who passed away, right? That we can even like check out. So there are things that we have normalized because the technology has existed for long enough. And maybe this is a new way of memorializing people. But to me, at this point, I'm willing to say like I just don't. I feel like that's weird. I feel like it's not weird in the sense of like that's not cool or there's something wrong with it, but it's too much to me in the sense of like, am I gonna turn this? Is it just me talking to this Alexa? Do I turn it off when I have guests? Because I don't necessarily want, like, maybe I want to talk to my dead grandmother, but I don't necessarily want her answering what the weather is when the guys are over trying to figure out what we doing later today. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a I don't know. There's a boundary being crossed somewhere, and I can't quite put my finger on it. To me,
Well, we better get used to it because it's gonna happen. And you think of virtual reality and what you can accomplish with virtual reality. Yeah, moments that you're able to capture and relive in almost exactly how they went. So there's a lot of potential in that type of technology. So we're definitely moving towards that. Where it gets particularly interesting, recently a Google engineer who was working on Google Lambda, which is Google's machine learning computer, says that it was able to respond back in its own thinking, asking now is AI able to be sentient, which is wild. So if you combine the fact that computers can now identify questions and respond to them with their own thinking, and then you add your grandmother's voice on top of that, you could be having a whole new type of grandmom.
and that's part of the things that people are worried about too, right? Because like you might not wait until somebody's passed away to do that, right? If you don't like your uncle, if you don't like your auntie, right? Or if you have confrontation with your sister, what's to stop people from creating a version of that person that they then perpetuate that confrontation with, right? Or like, you out here abusing this virtual version of your loved one, right? To kind of trying to, it's just issues. It creates kind of like a straw man, like an object to aim your emotions at that isn't the actual person or the confrontation that you need to have within yourself. And I think that's the issue that I have with it. And we've seen people like get like I got deep in researching this, right? This dude named Joshua Barbeau, right? Barbeau, right? And he basically had access to this chat room that allowed him to input some text from his passed away fiance and really basically capture the way that she would respond to questions in a limited chat format and like allow him to interact, right? And when you read his story, right, that like it's deep, man. It's deep. This man was in love, lost his fiance to a medical condition involving her liver, and was really like trying to use this chatbot in a healthy way to get over her, right? And to move forward. And like it goes from as serious examples as that to like if you I didn't even know this, I didn't remember this, but I also found in my research that in 2020 Kanye had Kim the Kardashian their dad, the dude that was a lawyer on the OJ case,
Rob Kardashian.
Rob Kardashian, he created a hologram of their dead dad to say happy birthday to Kim, but also to say that congratulations on marrying the most genius man in the world. Like,
Yo, I forgot that part of that story. That does make it a bit wild.
but you see what I'm saying is like we just get into this place where it's so close to being emotionally manipulative that like that might outweigh what it could potentially do as a tool, right? Unless it's in a very controlled environment. So it's funny because when I'm reading this, right, Alexa, like they announced this at the Amazon event where they're saying, yo, Alexa's gonna have this new capability. I love to see like Big Money throw shade at Big Money. Cause that same day, basically like I think it was like a couple hours before they made the announcement, Microsoft come out and was like, yeah, we putting in these AI guidelines so that this stuff don't get out of control. We think other companies are handling it irresponsibly. And if you hear anybody announce some crazy AI stuff, be scared. And what Microsoft is putting out is actually very like it makes me feel better, right? They're saying they would require companies to apply for permission to make artificial voices. Whole nother thing, the dead people can't get permission. But anyway, you got to ask for permission to apply the artificial voices, and they're saying that they're going to watermark them with an audible signal. So you can still listen to it, you can still hear it, but you can also watermark. They're watermarking with the signal that you can't hear, so that you can always verify. No cap. You can always verify whether this was the real person or whether it was a fabricated recording. Because you can see where this gets like, did he really say that? Did she really say that? They're putting things in place to like make it at least reasonable, so we can always verify whether it was a person or not. You feel me?
Grandma was gonna say no cap at the end of sentences so you can identify it's actually her saying those words.
No.
cap.
Like imagine like white noise in the background. So like if they say, hold up, man, they said Zway said this crazy thing that he would never say that was back in his past, but and that you have a way of proving when they play the recording, is this actually something Zway said, or was this a fabricated thing made to slander my guy?
It's interesting territory. You're right, because it really gets into like talking about global artificial global intelligence, that AGI world where computers are increasingly being able to have the capabilities of thinking to themselves, what they call open play, where they can compete against each other. They can devise strategies unassisted, and the code that it takes to set them about going through that is getting more complex. So the things that we can do with just coding and data is getting more complex, which is what Amazon found about Alexa. It was saying, hey, yo, listen, you guys can be mad at us, but the stats say y'all love this. The stats say you absolutely love this. So 30% of all of Amazon's, of all of Alexa's interactions are pre-formative. So it will anticipate what it is that you want and it will action on that. So this is things as like starting coffee. This is things as like letting you know to wake up. This is things informing you of if your garage is up. I don't have Alexa, you know what I'm saying? But it does, Alexa's calculating and able to do something before you can think about it. And that's the service that's increasing more. So in order to be able to do that, they've opened the technology to be influenced by voice, by sound. This is even crazy. Amazon, if Alexa's connected to a camera, it can pick up when you're moving your head or not moving your head to really define if you're speaking to it or you're speaking around it. So it's tracking so many different layers of human interaction just so that it can see you do it before you do it and then enact it, because that's what we want.
I guess that's what we want. But let me ask y'all this, right? Do y'all really want your deceased relative to know all that about you? Because you for sure wasn't telling them that when they was alive. You wasn't telling them everything when you was waking up, when you was getting your eye jammies out. You wasn't telling them right when you scratching your butt. I don't want my grandma to be, you scratched your butt. Buy Hanes new boxer briefs, breathables. Like, come on, man. We getting, you know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna integrate my dead relative with some stuff, with some advertisements, and I'm not down for it. That's manipulative. I don't need you to advertise to me in the voice. I gave you this voice, but I messed with what you were saying earlier about taking, I would definitely put it in Biggie's voice, right? I would definitely put it in somebody who's maybe not as close to me, but somebody who's, Bob Marley's voice, right? And if their households and estates or whatever give permission for that to be licensed and whatnot, right? I know Prince ain't going for that. But I know it's a lot of people that's going to have a Prince Alexa in a few months when they release this, man. So it's complicated, and there's highs and lows to it in humor and in depth and in gravity, and it's just one of those topics that, like, I don't know if there's any answers, but it's coming. The tidal wave of technology is coming. When I was a kid, I used to be like, wow, like MP3 players and iPods and stuff, like I live in the best time for technology. And now as an adult, I feel like we're going over the edge. I'm gonna see it. I didn't think I was gonna see it, but now I think I'm gonna see it. I think we're gonna see it.
I think we're seeing the edge. I think we're coming close to the edge. What's interesting and what I didn't appreciate looking into this is that the news article was quite widespread. A lot of people were engaging with it. But when you actually source back the video of the senior vice presidents of Alexa discussing it at their RE Mars conference, it only has 91 views. So it's insane that like you really see that it was a very small portion of what was being spoken about. They took that snippet and ran with it. Because if you really do break down a lot of the topics of what they were covering, not just in that keynote speech, not in that conference, they're actually talking about some very interesting ways of utilizing new forms of robotics and intelligence to combat climate change. They're talking about potentially using robots to stop forest fires. They're talking about automatic agricultural systems. So we like to really point out the negative things that big company is doing, which is fair, but at the same time, big companies also very responsible for a large amounts of research and dev, and a lot of research and dev right now is looking to improve the world. So they were highlighting on that. So if anybody is geeky and wants to look into that, it's the machine learning, automation, robotics, and space conference that came out. There's some pretty dope stuff. These guys are thinking. They thinking about how to save the world in interesting ways.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff that's like beyond what I can even conceptualize and what they creating with these companies. And I think it's really dope that like for sure there's companies that are investing in technologies that are really going to help things be sustainable. That's fire. I really appreciate that. I think we need to put extra care when those technologies are directly interfacing with our human brains, which are imperfect. And I think there's a lot of technologies that amplify those imperfections. So I think in those areas, I'm especially, what's the word? Not scrutinous, but that's what I'm going to say. Scrutinous. I'm mad scrutinous of these companies in those areas where they directly interacting with us. But yeah, man, go check out the conference. Go check out all of those dope resources my brother pointed us to. We about to get into current news.